history and try to recreate our ancestors' arrival from the Mideast to the States, through the gates of Ellis Island to the streets of
Adonai, ma'on ata hayita lanu l'dor vador. Lord, you have been our dwelling place in every generation.
Ladies and gentlemen, shalom and welcome. Tonight, we shall hear the story of the beginnings of our community in America. Tonight, we bear witness and journey back in time to find ourselves, to remember ourselves and the history that has brought us to this very moment.
From family stories and memories handed down from generation to generation, we will travel through those remarkable, happy, sometimes difficult yet unforgettable years.
Generation to generation, tonight we gather in tribute and pray with David Hamelech. Teach us to number our days that we may attain a heart of wisdom.
In the beginning, nearly 100 years ago, we came from Halab and Damascus, seeking freedom, economic freedom from the unpredictable fortunes of a changing world, religious freedom to practice the faith of our fathers without fear of malice, political freedom from the rising power of the Young Turks of the Ottoman Empire, and freedom from the threat of conscription, the long, arduous military service which posed such hardship for us religious Jews.
We brought with us new hopes and able bodies, full hearts and empty pockets. We carried with us the sacred traditions of our people, the laws of Moshe, and the time-honored traditions of Adam Sova. This is the living legacy that will bind us together in this strange and promising land.
Arriving on the shores of America, we were welcomed into the secure embrace of the Statue of Liberty. We were also greeted by the equally powerful arms of the United States immigration officers. And we quickly discovered that in America, many things would change, including our names.
And that baby over there might be sitting next to you tonight.
Khalid.
Yom Kippur.
What he say?
Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur.
October 10th. How many children do you have?
كم ولد عندك؟
3. Names?
شو اسمهم؟
What he say? What does he say?
Ezra, Nahama, and Luna.
Izzy, Clementine, and Lena. Next.
Some of us were welcomed by HIAS, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid and Sheltering Society. More often than not, however, we were met by one of our very own, a fellow Halabi who had arranged lodging and work for us. The Cohens were among the lucky legal immigrants, who passed through. Others, unable to enter the United States because of the quota system, went to Mexico or to South America, where no quota was enforced. Some settled there, and others tarried a while and came to the United States by train.
Next. Name.
شو اسمك؟
يعقوب مهنا.
كوهين ليفي ويسرائيل.
مهنا ليفي.
ليفي.
إيه يا حرام.
Jack Levy.
What year was he born?
إمتى خلقت؟
سنة الثلج.
The year of the big snow.
1906.
Wife's name?
اسم مرتك.
Birthday?
إمتى خلقت؟
ليت اللي ذبحوا الدجاج.
The night they killed the chickens.
October 1st.
Children's name?
اسم الولاد.
زاكي وسليم ونسمة وأبو
Isaac, Sam, Norma, and Joe.
And when were they born?
إمتى خلقوا؟
جمعة العيد.
The week of high holidays.
عيد الجار.
September 6th.
Tu Bishvat.
فترة الشوق.
The beginning of the heat wave.
June 4th.
في الربيع.
On the 4th month.
April 8th.
Doctor?
I was about 10 years old, and all I remember that for many, many years before that, they're talking about papers, الوراق جو من حلب من America. In other words, the papers are coming from America. I had two uncles over here who were trying to get us passage or get us into America. Finally, about 1929, we got all the papers together, and we started out. Now, I remember that my father had to borrow about $1,000 for the passage. We took a train from Halab to Beirut in order to board the ship. Of course, they didn't have any kosher food, so they gave my mother part of the kitchen in the ship, where there was about 3 or 4 other Syrian families, Jewish families with us. So she cooked for all of our people until we arrived. So it took about 30 days, the passage. When we finally arrived, I mean, whatever she cooked was what they gave her, the raw materials, which was mostly rice and spaghetti, and I don't think we had any meat or vegetables. Anyway, she did all the cooking. And when we arrived, we finally arrived here, we went through Ellis Island. And in Ellis Island, they discovered a little pimple on Gita's face. If you see her now, you see there's a little mark on her face. We all had that. That's a pimple that everybody got when they drank water from Halab. Habtul Sene. That means it's a pimple that lasted for a year and then it went away, but left a mark. I have it here. Luckily, I didn't have it on my face. A beautiful girl like Gita had it on her face. So they thought it was something catchy. They put us in Ellis Island, and I remember my father was, may rest in peace, was very, very upset. He said, they're putting us in jail. You know, this is jail. I want you to know, because Gita had a pimple on her face. But we as children, we had a very good time in Ellis Island. They gave us toys to play with all day, and fruits and everything else. And finally, after 2 weeks, we appeared before a judge who said that they just discovered that this is not catchy, and we could leave.
The Habt al-Senneh was no cause for alarm. In fact, it became a kind of recognition for the Aleppoan community. There were, however, many other diseases that could keep people from entering the United States. The strange American doctor lifted our eyelids with a button hook, searching for the dreaded disease trachoma, the cause of many of us being returned to the old country.
In the early 1900s, only the men came to the new land. Adventurous souls like Jack Shalom, Yusuf Beda, Aaron Shokrat, Ezra Sitt, Abe Sultan, and Joe Dweck. They came without family, hoping to make their fortune in a faraway land and then return home to Syria.
But as history would have it, plans changed drastically. World War I intervened, making the return home both dangerous and difficult. And at the same time, life in New York became more attractive and profitable. And so, after years of separation, families were summoned to the new land, braving the rough ocean passage, and they were all reunited on the Lower East Side.
Name?
Ishu Ismek.
Salha.
Sonia.
Salha.
Sonia.
Baba. Salha.
Sonia.
Wilak Dib. Salha.
Sonia Dib.
Sonia. Dip. Children's names?
اسم الولاد.
Bahiyeh, Mazal, und Abud.
Becky.
Bahiyeh.
Becky, Molly, and Albert.
Majnun?
That boy. Why does he keep playing with his ear? Does he have a hearing problem? Does he have an ear infection? Doctor? Nurse?
Dakhile.
This kid keeps pulling on his ear. Would you ask him why he keeps pulling on his ear?
ليش عم بتشد إذنك؟
Hazin Khayef.
He's scared.
Good luck.
He's gonna need it. Next.
I think that we get so many different things from the community. But most importantly to me is that sense of belonging to something that's gone on for thousands of years before me, whether those are religious or ancestral feelings. And I would feel terrible if something like that were lost. And I know I feel personally the obligation to continue and to make sure that those things continue, that my children see those things.
First of all, it's a common interest. It's like everybody has the same goals, aspirations. If my son or daughter go out with another Syrian girl or boy, we know more or less the family background. They have the same ideals, the same goals, the same feelings that we do. When I go with my friends, whether I go to Puerto Rico on a vacation or go to Europe or anywhere else there, when I go with them, they all have the same desires that I do, the same enjoyments that I do. And that's very, very important. The religion, of course, is one of the cementing factors because that's been from 200 or 300 years ago till now, and I just hope it continues in the future.
Crowded, hectic, and teeming with life on the east side of New York was a far cry from the ancient tranquility of Syria. Within the radius of a few square blocks, tens of thousands of new immigrants faced the challenges of learning a new language. New occupants and new ways of living.
When we arrived in America, we had already had an apartment taken for us, and it was next door to some relatives. And a week later, my father passed away. He was taken ill by the flu. A week after that, my grandparents arrived. They had also had to run away from the revolution in Haiti, and they moved in with us in our apartment. So we lived all together with my grandparents, aunt and uncle, my mother, my brother, and I.
We lived on Orchard Street, and we lived on the 4th floor, and the bathrooms were outside in the hallway, and we had no hot water, and there was no electricity. And that was the beginning when we first came from the other side. After a while, we moved to Delancey Street. We had 6 rooms, we had heat, we had bathtub, all the facilities in the house, and it was very nice. We lived there till 1990.
100 Syrian Jews living in New York City. In those early years, most, if not all of these, were men who found lodging with Ashkenazic families, sometimes 3 or 5 to a crowded room. As we have heard, accommodations left a great deal to be desired, and the rent, which included weekday and Shabbat dinner, could be as high as $10 a week.
These men, far from their families, were also separated from their fellow Jews. There was no shared language, and Syrian customs and traditions seemed foreign to the established Yiddish-speaking population. This separation, however, was also a blessing. It served to bind our community and strengthen the need for fellowship.
Immediately upon arrival, a place of prayer was established in the basement of an Ashkenazic synagogue near Grand Street. Some wild and woolly tales are told of Shabbat morning services when this small group of hard-working men, without the comforts of family life, would gather and share a bottle or two of arab before prayers. On an empty stomach, this liquid refreshment would lead to a sometimes stormy and always spirited service. And afterwards, a well-deserved Shabbat rest.
In keeping with the long tradition of trade and commerce, most Syrian men on the east side chose to make their living by peddling.
By 1911, a group of 8 entrepreneurs joined together to set up a wholesale store called Oriental Jobbers at 54 Allen Street. The shop provided weekly sustenance, a sense of community, and strong arm muscles from carrying the chantaya, the heavy satchel crammed with dry goods and linens. Selling door to door in the streets of Manhattan and the Bronx without a license, peddling sharpened our skills and our sense of adventure.
Well, when we first landed here, my father was going out with a satchel every day to sell merchandise, like tablecloths and linen, stuff like that. And he used to get merchandise from the stores on Allen Street. And when he came back, before he came home, he'd put the satchel back in those stores, and he'd pay the people for the merchandise that he sold, and then he'd come home. And the next day, he'd buy more merchandise to fill in what he sold, and he'd go out again.
Well, when we landed here, we were 9 people with $7, so we had to go to work immediately. And I think my uncles took my father the first few days peddling, and I don't think it agreed with it very much. So then my sisters got jobs in factories, and my brother and I started working after school and before school and during school, and we peddled ties mostly because I had an uncle that had a tie factory, so we used to buy the ties like $1 a dozen and sell them for 15 cents a piece. And then finally, after a while, my mother started making ties in the house. And my father and mother used to buy remnants, dress remnants, and they cut ties, and we went out selling them, my brother and I. And whenever we had any overage, we had a few cousins that were peddling ties also, we sold to them.
After years of worship in borrowed or makeshift spaces, Congregation Sha'arei Tzedek opened its doors at 48 Orchard Street, quite naturally 1 block behind the Oriental Jobbers. The establishment of this first Syrian shul set a pattern that continues to this very day. On the top floor of the synagogue, a katab was established for the afternoon study after public school. There, on weekdays from 3 to 6 and on Sundays from 9 to 4 in the afternoon, the boys of our community learned Torah and Talmud.
Work, study, mitzvot, and always and forever the family. No matter the size of the living quarters or the profits of the week, there is always room for one of us who knocks at the door, responsible for one another in the ever-expanding community.
Friday afternoons, we would have what we call mezza and beer or a drink, and they put Syrian music on, and my mother and my aunt would get up and dance, and I was very little, and I wouldn't let go of my mother, so I was always dancing with her, holding on to her, and it was very beautiful. I enjoyed that very much. And then one Friday afternoon, the bell rings, and I run to open the door, and a man was standing there, and he says to me, "Emek fil beit? Is your mother home?" Meaning, is your mother home? And I said, so he says, "Ilila ana honi, tell her I'm here." I run inside, and I say, "Ma, Rajal biridik." She says, "Rajal, how nice, a man wants you." She and my aunt perked up. So they went to the door, and he introduced himself as their cousin. And they greeted him, brought him in, and gave him to eat and drink. And in a very short time, he and my mother fell in love. And they got married.
My parents happened to be able to speak English right away. My mother was a teacher. My father was very well read, both in Hebrew and in English, and in Arabic, I should say. And it was easy for them to pick up the language. And they assimilated very fast. They helped a lot of people. They helped our whole community. They formed also organizations. My father was one of the founders of the Maoz Lebion, which is connected with the Bikor Cholim today. And my mother and her friends also formed an organization, the Young Women's Welfare League. Today, the younger people have taken over, but they worked very hard to build up a community. And they did. And they kept everybody together. We all lived close to each other, which was important, because it's easy to live amongst your own. It's easier to get along with people. And people didn't understand us, because we didn't speak their language. They didn't think we were Jewish. So it was hard. It was hard in the beginning. Eventually, they got to understand when they'd see us our people going to shul, and they realized that we were a different kind of Jews.
The observance of our religion is a very, very important fact in everyone's life. Now, I want to add to this that also what has kept our community together is the standard of our religion, which is kept according to our traditional way of Aram Sova, the way our parentage has observed our religion. And we must not minimize the importance of the religious standards of Halab or Aram Sova, because for many, many centuries, Halab was considered as a very important seat of religious knowledge and religious training.
Sometimes I think of what life would be if I wasn't in this community, and it scares me. It scares me to know that I would have to wake up every day and I wouldn't have a group of people that made me feel so secure. And that's what the community gives me. It gives me security, and I feel like I have a special bond with all these people. Everybody knows each other. I mean, you know, even if you don't know somebody intimately, you know them to say hello to or things like that. I think it's fantastic to have the security of this community behind us.
As we assimilated into the American way of life, we began to think about moving away from the crowded tenements and unhealthy conditions of the Lower East Side. Around 1919, the community moved en masse to 20th Avenue in Bensonhurst area, a very different Bensonhurst than we now know today.
In 1919, my father bought a one-family house on 65th Street. And the winters were very cold, and there was no grocery stores. We had to call to Allen Street to my father to bring us bread or milk or whatever, because we couldn't get out. It was so cold, and there was no stores around. It was all farming. There were very few one-family homes, and at that time there weren't too many Syrian people moving in. They moved in later on.
By the late 20s, we stretched from 61st Street to 70th Street. and from 19th Avenue to Bay Parkway. We settled into new quarters, private homes, which sold for about $4,000 to $5,000, or more popular row houses for $2,000 to $3,000, or to rented apartments above stores. The marketplace was on 20th Avenue, and shops owned by our own people began to spring up. A Syrian butcher, Haim Levi, the famous barber, the Hallah, belonged for many years to Murad Betesh. There were also several grocery stores owned by Abraham Selim, Selim Shami, and Shaya Shalom and Terzi, to name a few. Peddlers slowly disappeared, and many people worked in retail stores in the city. Others opened their own wholesale businesses, emulating the wholesalers who had sponsored their passage to America. These men hired many of our people to learn the business, a pattern which still continues today.
At home, family celebrations and community social events always followed formal traditional ways. Telephones were still few and far between, and so to invite their hal to any function, be it an engagement, a bar mitzvah, a swani, or a wedding, Mr. Sama, the inviter, was hired. Mr. Sama did not write, but when he was told the number of people to be invited, he filled his pocket with exactly that amount of business. And each time he delivered a message to a family, he ate one visit.
As ever, we quickly turned our attention to educational and religious needs, setting up temporary houses of prayer and study until a real shul could be built.
The synagogue was on 64th Street, lived on the same block with me. The rabbi was Rabbi Salim Ashkenazi. He was Ashkenazi, only in name. And we used to, as 2, 3 years of age, they would take us to the synagogue and tie us to a door so that we wouldn't wander off. And the rabbi would teach us our Hebrew instructions in Arabic, explaining everything to us in Arabic, of course in Hebrew, but explaining everything to us in Arabic. Now, little recollections that I have of the synagogue was that you weren't allowed to eat any candy or anything. And the rabbi would take anything you had in your pocket and he would store it away in a bag. Now, if you showed up on Saturday afternoon to read Tehillim, which were the Psalms of David, he would now put out the booty of all the kids out on the table, and you were allowed to eat anything so long as you came Saturday afternoon to the class. And the community at that time was probably 100 families at most that lived in Bensonhurst.
Well, the building of the Magen David Congregation Synagogue, which took place around 1921 or 22, was the most important event of that era in our community. In fact, I remember clearly the parade that took place at the inauguration ceremonies. I was sitting in our large Studebaker convertible automobile right in the back and watching the parade go by. Now, considering the fact that at that time the community was a very small community, that was a very, very meaningful step to take to build such a beautiful edifice for our community.
Soon afterwards, we built a Talmud Torah next to the synagogue where, after a long day at public school, the boys prepared for their bar mitzvahs. A few girls also studied there, but learning took place mostly by heart at home, especially on the holidays. Like the ever-present fragrance of rosewater, the holidays permeated the year and our lives with unforgettable tastes and traditions.
Rosh Hashanah was so exciting in our house on 73rd Street in the late 30s and early 40s. The practice on all of the holidays was visiting in this community. And we'd visit a couple of our uncles, but most of the community and relatives came to visit us. because my father was the rabbi and the oldest of the brothers, and they visited us for respect. And with the visiting, the excitement was our new clothes, of course, which Mom sewed prior to the holidays from the fabric that she had left over from the ties that she made for the boys to peddle. She'd hand me my dress and tell me, "Tiswar asik." That meant it's worth your weight in gold. And I always believed her. I was not much of a fashion expert. We prepared quite a bit prior to the holidays. The serving was almost a uniform type of thing, where we'd start out with the hello and go down the line to the liquor, the candy, the fruit, the cake and coffee, and we'd go and say, "Tfadalu." Tfadalu means help yourself. And we'd go in line from the oldest right down to the youngest. And if any of the family was sitting in between hosting, we'd be sure to say FHB. That means family hold back, because we were never sure we'd have enough. In the early days on Pesach, we were far more deprived of certain foods than we are today. Today there's almost everything available. But in the early days, Mom had to really improvise loaves of kosher for Passover. But my fondest memory of Passover was the very last day, the very last night, when Pop would come home from synagogue loaded with a bunch of grass in his hand, and we'd all stand on line, because this was the custom, and he would shake 2 or 3 pieces of grass at each person, and he would say, "Sente chadra mitl ziz, sente chadra mitl hashish." That meant the rest of your year should be as green as this grass. We kept the grass because we knew it was beautiful and well meant.
And the blessing bore fruit. Over the next decade, another move began, this time to Ocean Parkway. Despite, or more likely because of the Depression, many businesses prospered during those years. The new migrants fortunate enough to rent or purchase private homes were known as the 400s. On Shabbat and holidays in those early years, we used to walk from Ocean Parkway back to Magen David Synagogue on 67th Street and Bay Parkway. Then, in 1944, the community purchased a 2-family house on Ocean Parkway, which later became the congregation Sha'arei Zion, our central synagogue, which today serves over 2,500 families.
And in the midst of this prosperity, an essential challenge remained: how to best educate our children in the ways of Torah and ensure the social well-being of our community.
In the 40s, we women my age took over from the older ladies, not completely, but we started to help them in raising money for the people that needed it in our community, also for the Talmud Torah, whoever needed it in the community. We decided to have a center, and the center was on Avenue P, and we worked very, very hard raising money for that. We'd have card parties, we'd have affairs at night, we'd have what they call hafles, where they have the Syrian music, and to raise money for the center. The war broke out in Israel, and then we turned all our attention to raising money for Israel. When that was all over, and Israel became a state, we came back to working for the center, which had been left alone all that time. And we built it, we really worked hard to make it into a center, which was fine for a few years, and then it became a wonderful school, which was also very important.
I think it was about 1947 where Mr. Isaac Shalom, alav shalom, gave the idea to the community that we need a yeshiva rather than the Talmud Torah. Because the Talmud Torah was really a few hours after school, and many people started to object to it, and he wanted to start the yeshiva, and the whole community was against him. And he was a very stubborn man, and we backed him up. A few of us who understood the need for education backed him up, and we started the yeshiva in the basement of 67th Street, the little house that we had acquired in the back of. Then about a year later, when the center on Avenue P was built, we moved the yeshiva to Avenue P in conjunction with the center. And I remember that when we moved it there, the first Sunday, I put a bridge table in the lobby and registered children. We had about 35 children that we moved. That day, we registered 70 more children. Now, one day, one Sunday. And that was the beginning of Magen David Yeshiva.
Of course, for our young people, then as now, life was not all study and prayer. There were always many diversions, trips to Coney Island, sports, and good-natured rivalry between the Bay and Ocean Parkway neighborhoods.
In 1948, my brother-in-law, Isaac Mizrahi, may he rest in peace, bought a little TV with about a 12-inch screen. And he invited maybe 100 people to come watch the, I think it was 1948 or 49 World Series. And the room was split between the Yankees and Dodgers. Of course, the boys in the family were Yankees, the girls were Dodger fans. But that's one of the most memorable experiences that I had, the carrying on and each one rooting for their teams. This is the type of enjoyment that we had. You didn't need any materialistic things. Most of the things that we did were between competition, which was a healthy competition, and we all grew up very, very close to each other.
Bay Parkway, I want to give you, it was about 1954 or so, and we had almost the same group of friends that were on 20th Avenue. Were now, most of them moved to Bay Parkway. So the community sort of moved together, the community that I grew up in, the young guys and the girls. We developed as good athletes, and I remember that the Bay Parkway boys used to play the Ocean Parkway boys softball. And even socially, the Ocean Parkway boys stuck together. They had cars, you know, they used their parents' cars. We didn't have cars, you know, so it was a different economic situation. But I remember if I needed to go on a double date, I would always hook up with the guy his father had a car, you know, because it was the only way to get around.
And we sure did get around to the Friday night movies at the Marlboro with tickets and bags of visit bought in advance, parties and social events, and that little strip of heaven on Bay Parkway from Meyer's Sweet Box on 71st Street to the mailbox on 69th Street. Holidays, weekends, anytime, that was the place to be.
year is 1941. In Europe, the Nazi menace stalks the land. Nations crumble under the weight of Germany's aggression. France capitulates. Britain is on the verge of collapse, and the night, which will swallow 6 million of our Jewish brothers and sisters, has begun.
President Franklin Delano Roosevelt allays our fears as he seeks an unprecedented third term. I have said this before, but I shall say it again and again and again. You boys are not going into any foreign wars. Later, he will retract these words, tearfully informing us that the inevitable had happened.
But meanwhile, it's business as usual. The Great Depression is over. Optimism has returned to daily life. The 1939 World's Fair promises us a world of bright tomorrows, and the hard times of yesterday have gone with the wind. The Daily News costs 2 cents, and the subway ride to Manhattan is a nickel. For the same price, you can enjoy a cup of coffee at the Automat. Oh, and the Marlboro Theater now costs a hefty 25 cents. And in our bobby socks and saddle shoes, you'll find us hopping to the Saturday night hit parade at Meyer's Sweet Box. Hey, Meyer, how's the fun?
And those at home shoulder the responsibilities of the community. Young teenagers volunteer to roll bandages and collect scrap metals. Young adults raise money, donate blood, and sponsor social events and other morale-building activities. As conditions grow worse, the government tightens its belt, and rationing becomes a way of life. Undaunted, the community raises $300,000 with the sale of war bonds and stamps to purchase a B-25 bomber naturally named the Spirit of Magen David. Hundreds of newsy letters and care packages are sent overseas. And an extraordinary achievement, the Victory Bulletin rises to the occasion. From July 1942 to September 1945, the Victory Bulletin, our link to the boys overseas, is staffed by the Girls Junior League staff. These young women are the first generation of their families to graduate high school, and for many, the Bulletin is the first exercise in community service. As an expression of gratitude, Here is the Bulletin's prize-winning poem of 1943, written by PFC Walter Sarur.
This is a song of a GI muse, limbering along in a GI shoes, sung to a sort of GI tune under the GI southern moon. Gee, I'm loaded with GI clothes. Gee, I'm tired of GI hose. Gee, hun, I'm tired of GI issue, and oh, my darling, I miss you. Gee, I miss you.
While I was waiting for him, I was working, and every night I would come home and write him a letter. I wrote him a letter every single day that he was away. But in the meantime, I had friends, and our social life went on during the war just the same. We had dances, which I attended, and I had a good time. I danced with all the guys that were there, but very platonic. And if I danced with one boy one time too many, another guy would cut in and say, listen, your boyfriend is out there fighting. You're not dancing with this guy one time too much.
I was assigned as a liaison officer to the 2nd French Armored Division. This was the division that entered Paris and liberated that city. My family contacted me about that time and told me that the Shalom family was in Paris, and to see if I could contact them and try to help them in any way that I could. I looked for their office, and I found nobody there, nor was there anyone in their home. Their home had been completely denuded, and the girls were the girls or the parents were not there. I left Paris about that time. When I came back a couple of months later, by the girls, the Shalom's brother, who was living in the United States, had contacted them, and I went to visit. Their apartment was completely empty. They was living on orange crates, sleeping on the floor, and they went through a very difficult time. They had been in hiding all during the war. Their parents were taken to concentration camps, and they probably are the only ones that I know of in our community that were lost to the German concentration camps. I later married one of them, Adele, who came to the United States.
Let us pause a moment while we remember all the servicemen from our community, those who went away as boys and came back as men, and those who gave their lives for the cause of freedom. May their memory be a blessing.
Second World War affected our family very much. I had 3 brothers in the war, one in the coastal artillery, one in reconnaissance, and one brother was sent to the Pacific. My mother could neither read nor write, and she would ask us every day how the war was going on, and we would not tell her anything but that we were winning, and we got letters, and we'd take letters and read to her good things. That was the only way we could keep her calm. And thank God, everything turned out beautiful. My brothers all came back, and my mother was very happy, so were all of us. It was a beautiful thing when they came home. Beautiful. We had a very big party, and 200 people dancing and singing, and it was just gorgeous.
19th, 1945. The boys are coming home. All along the boardwalk from Asbury Park to Bradley Beach, from Avon to Spring Lake, there is singing, dancing, hugging, and kissing. The boys are home and ready for the future.
We're about to start the second part of our show, but first I'd like to introduce two very special people who were instrumental in making this a very special evening. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a very warm welcome to our generation's chairpersons, Francine Dweck and Sheila Haber.
President Morris Bailey, Executive Committee members of the Sephardic Community Center, esteemed rabbis, honored guests, representatives of the UJA Federation, JWB, the Jewish Board of Family and Children's Services, the Jacks Foundation, the Board of Jewish Education, and all of you dear friends, good evening and welcome. Nearly 100 years ago they came, parents, grandparents, yours and mine, looking for a new life. Nearly 1 year ago, we conceived of a project that would recreate the Sephardic immigration to this country. Today, December 7th, 1988, on this, the fifth night of Hanukkah, we pay tribute to our ancestors and to the magnificence and sanctity of our culture and heritage, to the way it has been cherished, to the lifeline and legacy we continue to pass down from generation to generation. Tonight's production is a celebration of Sephardic life. Generations would never have been possible without the hundreds of volunteers and participants who have given of their time and energy. Please take more than a moment to review in your playbill the names of all the wonderful individuals who contributed so willingly and so fully to this program.
We would like to take this opportunity to especially acknowledge and express our deepest gratitude to
Shelley Dweck. Would you please come up? Shelley Dweck, Rochelle Dweck.
For her outstanding efforts and her total commitment to detail and efficiency in chairing the Sephardic Immigrant Wall of Honor project and the Generations ticket sale. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you very much. To Toonie Tersey. Toonie, please come on out.
Toonie is a lady of the minute, the hour, the day, anytime she is available for everything and for everyone. Toonie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
To
Michael Posnick, please come out.
Our sensitive, creative, and talented director and his entire professional production staff. Thank you, Michael. To
Marty Maskowitz, where are you?
Center Program Director for his intelligence, his resourcefulness, his encouragement, and his complete dedication. To
Linda Schiff, where are you?
Adult Department Director, for all of her hard work, support, and commitment. Linda, wherever you are, thank you very much. One very important name was left off from the program, as often happens, and we would like to acknowledge the enormous assistance of
Ruth Safdie, come on out.
Assistant to the stage manager.
Well, Ruth is backstage. Thank you. Finally, we thank you, our audience, for being here tonight. And we ask that once again you sit back together with us and continue to remember this.
There were two unfortunate incidents that took place in our history that caused us to spring up from a little congregation into a full-fledged congregation. One incident took place in the spring of 62 or 63. At the time, we were praying in the basement of Club 100. And by some unforeseen situation, 4 gunmen came down to hold up the club. Instead, they found the congregants praying, and it was just at the end of Tefillat Mincha. They looked around, and they were flabbergasted. Everybody with empty pockets, nothing in their wallets, and that really baffled them at that point. They decided to try to eke out from every person whatever possible. They took my tie-pin, they took the rabbi's watch. It was preposterous because we had nothing on us. But just at that time, somebody drove up to the door, and some people were left off to go into the club. That same car pulled out, apparently trying to get other guests to come to the club. But there was a getaway car standing at the back door. This getaway car tooted its horn, thinking that in the front door of the club, the police had arrived there. The 4 gunmen disappeared instantly, not knowing what went on. Apparently here was the hand of God telling us, fellas, get moving. Enough of this mema'akim keratika. No more basements for you. Get on the main level. So we bought a house with an open lot. And for the next few years, we survived rather well. However, on the high holy days, we had the practice of bringing a gigantic tent to accommodate the people that were now gathering for prayers. As it happened, on one Rosh Hashanah afternoon, right after Tefillat Musaf, a storm brewed. We left the premises, and soon after, the entire tent collapsed completely. You could just imagine there might have been from 300 to 325 persons in the tent. Once again, we saw the finger of God moving along, and there was the handwriting on the wall. Build yourselves a proper synagogue. Enough this tent living. And so it was that 20 years ago, we built our Beth Torah synagogue. And thank God today, we have almost 1,000 people attending services on Yom Hashanah and Kippurim.
Bradley Beach was our little paradise on the Jersey Shore. Just the very name evokes smiles, starry eyes, deep sighs for wonderful summer days gone by. The whole of Bradley encompassed 7 or 8 blocks from Main Street to the beach and from Brindley Avenue to the lake. In the late 1940s and early 50s, a family could rent a summer home from the end of June to the week after Labor Day for $300 to $600. Every nook and cranny was rented. Garage apartments, $10 rooms at Charlene's Motel, or the luxurious Shore Efficiency Apartments. And for the weekend boys, it was 6 to a room at Mrs. Newman's with towels.
Whatever lodgings were rented, they were never large enough because every relative and friend who wasn't at the beach for the summer was welcome to visit. Every home had a front porch, and the walk to and from the beach was often extended with stops along the way for coffee and some gab. The trip from Brooklyn in the old Chevy took close to 3 hours, because there was no Verrazano Bridge or Garden State Parkway. There was a ferry, and the little ones loved to be in the car at boarding time. The men commuted daily by train and would pass the time on that long trip playing cards. The scene in the railroad station, bidding fathers goodbye in the morning and then picking them up at night with the children bathed and in pajamas, was in itself a ritual that was as much a part of Bradley as the boardwalk and the beach.
Bradley Beach, in the late 40s, early 50s, mid-50s. I remember those days very, very well because they were very happy days for me. The focal point of the entire community was the beach. Everyone was on the beach. The boys of my age, 8, 9, 10, 11, used to play popsicle stick games underneath the boardwalk. There was a boardwalk then. And we used to play 2 beside your own and 3 beside your own. And with these friends, we met their parents, and we met their brothers and sisters, and we also met their aunts and uncles. And conversely, they met my entire family. So by the end of the summer, we knew every single person on their beach, who he was, who his parents were, who the entire family was. And it got us a sense of community. Even till today, I can very vividly recall, if I go down Evergreen Avenue or down 2nd Avenue, who used to live in what house and how many kids they had, and all their brothers and their sisters. That was a total community then.
Do you remember the eggplant sandwiches with the tomatoes? Well, that was still warm from Mrs. Haber's wagon with a new beach ball from Saltzman, the 5 and Dime on Main Street, and the suntan lotion from Warner's Pharmacy on 2nd Avenue. And we started out dragging the baby carriages and the beach chairs and the picnic baskets and the towels and the umbrellas. Oh. But we went down the beach just for the day. And it was a high boardwalk, a huge flight of steps, and we had to traipse all these things down. At the top of the stairs sat a guard. He was checking our badges.
Mischievous boys would jump down to the beach, either because they had no badge or just to tease the guards. And the older boys, equally mischievous, went over to Brindley Beach or Mike and Lou's just to tease the girls. At water's edge, Mel the lifeguard tried to restrict swimming to a visible area, and the kids were non-stop across the sand to Mrs. Geller's sandbar. Arrangements were made for pay in advance for Saturdays. But Saturdays, Sundays, every day, it was back to the beach.
1, 2, 3, jump. There were also movies and amusements at Asbury Park. What a thrill to reach for that gold ring on the merry-go-round for a free ride for the young couples. And we went dancing Saturday nights at the West End Casino. How many of you remember that? And the Carubios. Do you remember when we used to get up on the tables and dance Syrian? And the Green Grove Manor. We'll never forget that. Finishing the night with a drive to the end of the boardwalk for Italian ices or a cup of coffee or Schneider's at the circus or whatever else we can get our hands on. The romance of Bradley Beach was the stuff dreams are made of. Dreams that last.
When I was engaged, I was in Bradley Beach, and Ralph was handing me a ring, a diamond ring, which we were very excited about. I wasn't very excited about, but the next thing he did was give me a bicycle, and I was just thrilled with that bicycle. And I drove that bicycle all over the community, showing everybody that what Ralph got me was the bicycle. In the meantime, the ring was very beautiful, and I just didn't realize the value of it.
By the late 50s, people started buying homes, and the need for a permanent house of worship was filled once again. Community leaders built the Magen David Synagogue of Bradley Beach on Fifth Avenue. By 1970, this building also housed our first day camp, which continues to thrive today. It was one small town where we were all one big family. We moved on, but we'll always remember our own Camelot, Bradley Beach.
My strongest influence were my parents and my grandparents. They have always been very involved in community affairs. My father was on the building committee of the center. My mother has been participating in all center activities from the onset, and their involvement in the community has just shown me exactly how rewarding it can be.
What really brought me, what really taught me, what really kept me going and guided me to do what I have been doing and to continue doing it, which is hopefully doing for the sake of myself, my community, my friends, my peers, I believe came from my parents. My mom and dad both are involved greatly with the community, and I see the benefits from it within my family. I see the benefits of it within the community.
One of the foundations of this community is Bikkur Cholim. Bikkur Cholim helps the young and old alike, either through visiting, food, or any type of visitation. One thing I remember the most is a visit that we made to this lady who was paralyzed from her neck down. It wasn't a physical thing, but it was more mental. And they said just by people who would come and visit her and care for her, maybe they'd be able to help her and make her move some more. So that's what we did. We'd come and visit her every single week. All of a sudden, there was this one week I remember, and she started to move her finger around. No one said anything because we were afraid we didn't want to scare her and make her stop. So what she did, all of a sudden, she realized herself and she started to scream. So when she screamed, we all got happy. We were jumping around for her and everything. We were very happy. 1 week went into 2 weeks, a few weeks. Next thing you know, she started to move one finger, 2 fingers. She started to move her head. And, you know, this is just one thing where just by helping people, and we need people like this to come help us. We need volunteers like you to come help us and do these things.
In Halab, the East Side, Bensonhurst, or to Bradley Beach, from immigrant life to the high life, some things never change, like the pre-engagement period of a young couple in love and the ancient mating ritual known as putting the guy on the carpet.
What problems? This daughter of ours, Binta and Whitman. Yeah, Josie, the Birna.
He's here again. Never said that.
Lashmack said that 6 months he's wasting Shelley's time. And Ba'illah.
What should I ask him?
Ask him what his intentions are. Yeah, yeah,
You mean right now? Hala?
He's here now, isn't he? Ask him if he plans to marry her. Ask him when he plans to announce his engagement. Jack, the night we were in the parlor and my father came in, what did he ask you?
Your father? He gave me a bottle of arak. He made me drink it fast. And before I knew it, he was slapping me on the back saying, Mabruk, yabni! Adule, are you really gonna make me do this?
Do what? You're the father. Do what you have to do.
Wait a minute. Let's not rush into this. How much is it gonna cost for the wedding?
Allah Sadna, what's the difference? What will be. The main thing, aslak, hatta under the carpet.
It's under carpet.
Under, over, whatever you want, do it.
What should I say?
يا عيني عليك شدب. Ask him, is he gonna marry her? Does he love her? How he gonna support her?
What if he can't support her?
أي دقيقة روح بقى يا دب كش من وجهي.
I'm going. I have a feeling that Elliot is not the only one on the carpet here.
Elliot's here. He just showed up just like that. Isn't he adorable?
Go help your mother. I'm gonna talk to Mr. Adorable.
You're gonna have a talk with him now?
Yeah, he's here now. Go.
Mom!
Skitty fast,
How are you? Where's Shelley?
Shelley went to see her mother. Want to have a shot at... Anna? Never mind. Elliot, you've been seeing my daughter for quite a while now. So, what's up? I mean, what are your intentions?
My intentions?
Yeah. Do you love her?
Of course I love her.
Just the words I wanted to hear. Do you intend to marry her?
Sure. One day.
Which day?
I don't know. Soon, I guess.
Elliot, are you in a position to support her?
We're in love. We'll make it work.
You'll make me work. Elliot, you know, we like you very much. But we'd like to know when you're going to announce the engagement.
Well, I gotta check with my parents first, you know? About the date, not about my choice. They met Shelley and they love her. We'll call you, all right?
Ma, how could he do this to me?
Do what, Dolly? Doesn't Daddy have the right to know if he wants to marry you?
Yeah, but what if he leaves and never comes back?
He goes. What's the difference? بيروح واحد بيجي غيره.
This is the worst night of my life!
No, Dolly, it's not the worst night. What is meant to be will be. Nasib is nasib.
What happened?
ايش صار؟ وين هو؟ وين الشيخ؟ ايش
Let me say something.
Is he coming back?
Say something.
Jack, I hope
And
you
let me say
worry.
something.
Go right ahead.
Stop it there! Hadley, stop it, stop it. He loves you very much, and he wants to marry you. And he went to ask his parents, going to announce they...
When?
I don't know. He went to ask his parents. I don't know.
دقيقة ابتدي التليفون ده ادق له لسارة وقلت the waitresses. Really? Daddy, I'm so excited! Mom, I need clothes. All right, darling.
And I'm going to second mortgage the house. Calm down. Listen, there'll be time for everything.
Okay, darling, we go now. Tomorrow we go to Kleinfeld. And Estes. And maybe don't tell Baba we go to Jimmy's. And if we have time, we register in Adelaide's Alley.
You know, I feel by putting Elliot on the carpet, I put myself under the carpet. And it's my carpet.
Well, the kids have finally announced their engagements, and the phones are ringing off the hook with well-wishers. Now it's time to plan the engagement party. First, call the consuegros and set a date. Then, check to see if the waitresses are available. If not, plead and cry, do anything, explain to them. Don't make me call the consuegros again. Then we start the sacred ritual of shopping. Clothes for the bride, clothes for the bride's mother, clothes for the bride's father, whether he likes it or not. Right about now, your husband starts getting these terrible headaches. Every time I put my hand in my pocket, my head starts to pound. Hazit, you say to yourself, and this is only the engagement party. By the time the wedding rolls around, he's gonna need hot salah. But headaches or not, the party goes on. Disco in one room, Norbe in the other. The Arus and the Aris, young and beautiful, dancing in the middle of the circle. Mebruk. Now we're down to the nitty-gritty, buying the trousseau. Buying a trousseau is like having a job. Every morning you get up and start shopping. For the wedding gown, the going-away suit, the swanny dress, the lingerie. Oh, that lingerie. But Ma, you can see right through this thing. And Ma just smiles and says, I know. And at that exact moment, somewhere in Flatbush, the groom's mother is frantically shopping for picture frames and jewelry and candlesticks, pocketbooks, everything to make a stunning swanny. The day before the wedding, the bride goes to the mikveh. Protocol dictates that she invite her mother-in-law to witness this most important event. Even though she's praying, the invitation will be refused, which it usually is, thank God. And now, you prepare to say goodbye to your children on their wedding day. Now is the time when parents need to take a step back and let the next generation proceed with their lives. A time when you pray for their happiness and hope that their mistakes will be few and their triumphs plenty. A time to embrace and a time to let go. A Bal Farach to all your children.
Yes.
see the community as a sun, a warm center. And it allows everybody to be whoever they want. You could orbit really close to the sun if you need that warmth and you need that kind of security of knowing that the sun is always there, or you could go out, you could do loop-de-loops around other galaxies and the sun is always there in that same spot waiting for you to come home. It's very special.
Towards the end of the 60s, the SY 7-year itch occurred again. Another migration, this time from Bradley Beach. We began to look for even larger homes, more land, and a different ambiance. We found all this in Deal, a beautiful little town only minutes from Bradley. In Deal, our newfound retreat, we have come to enjoy the comfort and security for our children, who will continue to be together and maintain a strong sense of identity.
When I first moved to Deal in 1975, there weren't that many kids in Deal to speak of. The kids who were there, who were 14, 15, 16, had kind of been uprooted from Brooklyn at an age where kids generally need that peer group and their friends. And it was very difficult for them. They didn't have a group of friends. There wasn't really a sense of community. And they went through some difficult times. I think a lot of them really wanted to be back in Brooklyn. My kids started out in Hillel in the elementary school when we first moved here. Now they've grown up with friends. They've developed a sense of community. And now I think they feel they have their own group, their own community. They don't know what it is to have grown up in Brooklyn.
The 2 to 3 month season is filled with swimming, sports, entertaining, playing cards at the casino. The children go to day camp, young adults play tennis, and they make sure there are lots of parties. Our hardworking breadwinners, our men, are with the unbounded generosities, look forward to the occasional Wednesday or Friday or Sunday off to enjoy the fruits of their labor, relaxing at the beach, a little game of toile at the casino, or just being with the family for barbecue. Early on, the Deal Synagogue was built for the summer community. And as the new immigrants of Deal expanded to West Deal, Oakhurst, Long Branch, Elberon, and Ocean Township, new places of worship arose.
In Ocean Township, which is where I bought, the builder that was partners with the Shadow Loan Bank had plans on the drawing board of 100 homes right in the immediate vicinity. Recognizing this as going to be a future for the Syrian families that are moving into the Deal area is the reason I bought that home. Felt that it was going to be the hub eventually in time, would be the hub of the Syrian community. And I bought this home. However, during the 6 months preceding the time of closing to that home, I kept asking the builder how many homes did he sell in that area. And he kept giving me the same response, none. Nobody was buying into that area. I was the only one buying into that area. And at that point, I asked the builder, I said, what are you doing to attract the Syrian community? And he says, well, what do I have to do? I said, well, usually people put up a country club, or tennis courts, a swimming pool, something to attract buyers into their development. And yet you have nothing to attract them. He says, what do I have to do? And at that moment, Hashem put a thought onto my tongue, not even in my head. And I told his builder, I says, give them a synagogue. And I went and I conscripted whoever was living into that area to become members of that synagogue, which was like maybe a half a dozen. And the rest is history.
Today, nearly 300 families reside in Deal. Their children receive a full yeshiva education at the Hillel School. And in West Deal, next to the synagogue, there's a thriving community center a tribute to the pioneering spirit of the men, women, and children of Deal.
The key word of Syrian Sephardic Judaism is tolerance. In every family, everybody seems to tolerate. One is very, very religious, so we tolerate him. And one is moderately observant. And one is less observant, but we're all one community. And that's the unity in the fabric that holds us all together, that little tolerance. And that's the one thing that I'm concerned that we may lose. And if that happens, then I would say we would be like the other Jewish communities and we would fragment.
As we draw nearer to the wholeness of this bright moment in our history, let us pause and remember some 5,000 members of our community who still remain captive in Syria. Their presence is a constant reminder that we, the much blessed children of immigrants, have not yet finished our wanderings.
I left Halab in 1972 for many, many reasons. One of the main reasons, you're not allowed to travel inside the country or outside the country. Second of all, the Jews in Halab were limited for work. You can do only small domestic work. You're forbidden to do like a big job, import-export business. And also for sometimes Jews weren't allowed to go to college. And also was a very, very huge, big discrimination against Jews that makes it almost impossible for us to live in Syria. And when it was war between Israel and the Arab country, the situation for the Jews there was very, very bad. The Jews weren't allowed to leave anytime they want or come home anytime they want. If they leave at their own, they can be thrown into jail. As a matter of fact, a friend of mine was in jail simply because a tourist asked him where was his hotel. And the police saw him talking to a tourist, and he took him and he put him into jail. I was in jail myself when I was about 15 years old, going to attend a party of my friend. The police thought I was trying to cross the border. They took me, they put me into jail for about a week, and it was a nightmare for me. Also, every Jew has their identification, such a passport or driver license, marked in red, Jews. And other reason that made me decide to escape that country.
Many will recall the dangerous and courageous efforts of Stephen Shalom and Congressman Stephen Solars and others who worked with the U.S. State Department to save the lives of 12 young proxy brides. Since that time, many newcomers have been welcomed here as efforts continue quietly to alleviate the harsh conditions of those whose faces are our own.
When I'd see my mother get up and my father get up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning to take care of somebody, day after day, night after night, and they'd be abused and scolded and yelled at because things didn't happen the way they wanted it, I'd say, I'm never going to do this work. I'll never help anybody. But then you grew up in that kind of atmosphere, and you have to help. You know there's a need for it somewheres, and someone has to do the work, so you do it.
I know a girl, a beautiful girl, 15-year-old. She was delivering a package, a Passover package, to one of our members of the community. And she gets into the house, she sets it up for the lady, and on the way out, she looks in the eye, and she sees that she's not that happy. There's something missing. She finds out, the lady tells her, I don't have any money. If it wasn't for this package, no holiday, no nothing. The girl reached into her pocket right away and said, here's $15. That $15 was her allowance. So she walked out there empty-pocketed, no money. But if you looked at her face, you'd say, she won $1 million.
I have no worry at all about our future generation. Our younger people know where they're heading, know what they want to do about retaining the tradition of this community. They're intelligent, they're farsighted, they're religious. They'll keep this community going the way we've had it. We've been very fortunate in our security, belonging to this community, and the young people will have this sense of identity retained forever.
And we are still doing it. The community that used to live on Ocean Parkway from Avenue P to Avenue T now stretches from Avenue I to Avenue Y, from East 1st Street to East 31st Street. Our children receive the finest elementary and secondary yeshiva education. And synagogues like the Ahiezer, Beth Torah Congregation, B'nai Yosef, Ahava V'Ahava, the Lebanese Synagogue, the New Kol Israel, and the Avenue R Sephardic Synagogue, soon to be built on Avenue S, continue to spring up every few blocks, like wells to satisfy our spiritual thirst.
In the early part of this decade, the community acknowledged the pressing need for stability and centralization, particularly for our youth. Characteristically, as happened so often in the past, a strong group of people arose to meet these challenges, and the Sephardic Community Center was born.
We began the concept of the center about 10 years ago, and I'll tell you how it began. The Shara Zion congregation had planned to build a center behind their synagogue, and because of community objections, they had to back down on that project, and all of us were very disappointed. We recognized the need for a community center, and we felt at that time that what was needed was a total new approach by new leadership who would devote their time and efforts to completing this project. So a group of us got together around the bar where we normally hang out at a fair, and started the discussion of forming a committee. The core of perhaps 8 or 10 men then dedicated ourselves to proceeding with the project. And once we announced our plans, we quickly got support, and this original core of 10 to 12 quickly grew to about 60 men, and we formed our committee that enabled us to proceed with the project.
The center now serves the needs of every segment of our community. There are early childhood programs, the junior department for elementary school kids, the 78s and TNT for our teenagers, New Directions, and the Young Leadership Training Program for young adults, the adult department, which sponsors educational programs and special events, like this evening's tribute, social services, which serves the special needs of the community, the health, physical education, and recreation department, the Sephardic Archives department, and the Senior Citizens department, serving the communal, social, and recreational needs of those who have taught us the way. From generation to generation, the center is the place to be. The center is a celebration.
We went back into our history and tried to recreate our ancestors' arrival from the Mideast to the States, through the gates of Ellis Island to the streets of the East Side. With our religion and traditions, we built a world with pride. Generation, helping one another, generation, caring for each other, generation, moving on together, When we got to Brooklyn, out sprang the shul. With hard work and toil, we built a Hebrew school. Our businesses were flourishing, our homes began to rise. With holidays and sevens, we kept our spirits high. Generation, helping one another, generation, caring for each other, generation, moving all together, generation. community grew and grew. We built ourselves a center to make our dreams come true. Now here we are together, the young folks and the old. From now until forever, our story will unfold. Generation, helping one another, generation.
The center enables me to participate in my community, to see my community, to be with people that I love and care a lot for, and to also fill my needs, you know, whether it be social, intellectual, philanthropic. I just find that the community serves the community. The center serves the community, which it's supposed to do, and which it serves the people, and I am the people, and so I am there. I'm very happy.
The center is one of the best things that happen in this community. People from all different ages go there. It shows a sense of unity, a sense of belonging to the community. If you go there, you can play basketball there. You want to be on a committee there. There's so much to do. You meet people there. It's a great place.
I love working with children in the center. I study psychology in school, and working with the young kids in the play just gave me a feeling that my accomplishments were worth it and all my studying was worth it. Working in the center just brings out a part of me that I can share with other people, and that's what I love doing, helping others.
And I think it's fantastic the way it's bringing all the families together. Now, my grandchildren are there on Sunday morning, the little ones are there from 10 o'clock in the morning. I don't even get a chance to see them. So as far as I'm concerned, if they didn't have the center, I would have seen my grandchildren this morning, but they're really enjoying it, and they're loving it, and they're really kept busy.
New Directions, I feel like it's a blessing from the heavens. I mean, we've been waiting so long for this, the young adults, and it's ever since it started, it's been so important in our lives. The young adults always had CCY in the past, but ever since that died out, the young adults were just left with nothing to do, and, you know, no parties, no charity functions, and then along came New Directions, and I think it's fantastic.
We have young men and women who are bright and are dedicated and are really committed to work within the community. It's a fabulous asset that very few communities in the world have, and we should all be proud of it. We should realize that our future will be as good and as productive and as meaningful as our past, and that our children and our grandchildren will be committed as we are to sustaining what we have.
The center is great! From Bay to Ocean Parkway, our community grew and grew. We built ourselves a center to make our dreams come true. Now here we are together, the young folks and the old. From now until forever, our story will unfold. Generation, helping one another, generation, caring for each other, generation, moving all together, generation. Generation, helping one another, generation, caring for each other, generation, moving all together, moving all together, moving all together, generation. Mabruk!
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce to you the Vice President of the Sephardic Community Center, Mr. Eddie Catton.
Distinguished rabbis, leaders of the various Jewish communal organizations, which Francine alluded to before, friends and family, ladies and gentlemen, wow, I don't think I've spoken to this many people since my bar mitzvah. And to be honest with you, I'm more nervous now than I was then. This evening's production of Generations truly represents a milestone in our community. The 2,500 people gathered here tonight pay tribute to our rich heritage and culture. We have every reason to feel proud of our accomplishments. However, it is appropriate to give special recognition to our forefathers, to the giants who preceded us, to our rabbis, leaders, and parents who are instrumental in establishing those institutions which provided the foundation of our community. Our schools, synagogues, nursing homes, Bikur Cholim, Maoz Le'Ebyon, and our very own Sephardic Community Center are all vibrant examples of the leadership that our forefathers gave us. Now it is our turn to teach our children as we were taught, to prepare for the future. And I'm so happy to see, as I look out on the audience, so many young children. In fact, I think this is one of the first activities that I'm at where I am older than half the people. I don't know if I'm getting old or there's so many young people out there. It is our responsibility to see to it that our community continues to grow and flourish. An investment in our schools, synagogues, and other communal institutions will give us and our children a secure future. When you talk about current leadership, it can best be expressed in two names, Francine Dweck and Sheila Haber. Sheila, where are you? Come out. Okay. Okay. Who else would have undertaken such an endeavor as Generations? Volunteers, mind you, but volunteers who have worked 6 days a week, 30 to 40 hours each of those weeks for the past 10 months. The level of their dedication and commitment to the Sephardic Community Center and to the community at large is unsurpassed. In true appreciation of what these two young and dynamic women have accomplished this evening, I would like to ask Francine and Sheila to come front and center and receive just a very small token of our appreciation for a job magnificently performed. Come on, let's hear it. As has already been mentioned, tonight is the 5th night of Hanukkah, and it is most appropriate to end this evening's activity in an upbeat way with the lighting of the menorah. As we light the candles, we not only commemorate the miracle of Hanukkah and the victory of the Maccabim, but we also rededicate ourselves toward the continued growth and development of our community. Will you please rise and join us for this ceremony?
Everybody, please.
life, to be happy, to be healthy, to be successful, to be Bezat all over, all your life, you and your children, we say Amen. Amen.